It's time for another edition of Austin Fit Talks, and joined by one of the founders of Running in Austin, Paul Carrozza. Paul, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's good. And this is a good chance for us to kind of fill people in on what you're doing lately, which is Born to Run, which has become something for people really of all ages, which I want to get into. But one of the things I think is interesting is you've managed to keep people active and leading a healthy lifestyle through the pandemic. How have you kind of made people feel comfortable and encourage them to still get out and exercise in their own ways?
We've had kind of a herd mentality through the years where we were very inclusive and lots of people would show up to workouts and it was kind of free flowing. And so initially, and about, I guess, 6 months before the pandemic, I had set up an online platform just to help manage because when you coach kids and adults and you see them 2 or 3 days a week, you want to help them figure out what to do on the other days. So I had gotten into this app called Final Surge where I get to dictate the workout, but it broadcasts, and then the athlete can, send it back and update their own personal profile, and then I can have a dashboard to what they're doing. So I kind of luckily prepared that, and then in March, we actually shut down completely for about a month from physical, or 6 weeks for physical gatherings. And then as it started lightening up, we started getting together in groups of 9 or 10 or more. So I just had to play my song more times a day because we had to break up the groups. And what ended up happening was the groups ended up breaking up into more common, because we had a wide spectrum of, we've got young kids all the way up through 82-year-old Mo Atwall. So we ended up getting more focused on 9 or 10 people at a time. And so then we'd have to stagger them. So one group would be showing up at 7 and the next group wouldn't come in until 7:45. So the first group had done their intervals and we're heading out while the other group's coming in to warm up. So, and being outdoors and doing an activity that is going to help bolster your immunity seems to be the right thing at the right time. And what really is important is that, which is kind of exciting being in the running business, is that running is the only time these kids are getting to socialize. And so they don't miss running workout because that's when they get to see their friends other than Zoom calls or texting or Snapchatting, whatever they do. So, we've broken up into smaller groups. We're already outside. In running, we've been trying for years to get kids to stay together in running, and they always fall apart. So, right now, you don't really have to worry except for exactly when they start for them to be too close together because they're going to spread out naturally just because of different paces.
I think that's one of the cruel ironies, if you will, of COVID is that we're also worried about our health, but one of the things that can help us be healthier, which is, exercising, people are nervous to do, right? You almost feel like you're breaking the rules if you go outside and you run on the trail or you play a game of basketball, whatever it may be. But at the same time, it's critically important to do that stuff, right?
Well, I think it's the number one thing you can do to keep your immunity bolstered. And as time has gone on, you gain confidence that your physical is, because we went through, I don't know how long it's been now, but we've been a safe environment. And I think that I think there was an early study that kind of damaged the perception of running that came out of the university about the slipstream of being a runner's slipstream. And that was kind of dangerous. I think that's probably set the tone for thinking that running isn't safe. But, I think there's so much, that's all about parts per million, and outdoors has proven to be a very safe environment. And where I think you got to worry is if you're indoors, unmasked, in a direct conversation for 15 minutes or more. I mean, these are the environments. So we're outside and we're separated naturally.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it, but let's talk about Born to Run. You said you have, 5 up to 82 or whatever. Yeah. I mean, break down a little bit just the scope of the programs you've got going now, because it really is something for everyone.
Yeah. I started looking at, we've spent so many years sort of training people. We started out as highly competitive athletics was our focus, and then we got really inclusive and broadband during the RunTex days of how to get everybody running and finding a proper level for everybody. And what I've seen is when you get people together and teach them how to run, I see it a little bit more like learning how to take a tennis lesson, or learning as a kid learning how to ride a bike or learning how to swim. The younger you are, and the more you learn how to run, just like learning how to swim or ride a bike. I said, trying to teach them how to run before they're hardwired, right? So anytime you're learning a sport as an adult, it's a more difficult learning process. Anytime you can learn it as a child and become efficient, learn the skills. So what we do the way we approach running is I like to get people together, keep them together, and do the things that improve their running that they're least likely to do by themselves and on their own. And so, I remember once we were we were with Willie Nelson, and he was getting ready to go play Whiskey River at Stubbs, and we were getting off the bus, his bus with him, and he was like, all right, we got to go play Whiskey River for the 8,972nd time that they're here for, and it's like, that's what I feel like sometimes at workouts, is playing this again, but that's what everybody is here for. And you feel a little insane, but actually athletics is a little insane. You do the same thing over and over, and eventually you get different results, and it makes it all worth it. So we show up and we have people warm up, you do your drills, and you do your strides, and we have this discipline that, looks like we're a soccer team warming up. And then you go through these either hills or series of intervals, and on the front end of running, intervals are to keep you comfortable, right? And at the experience level of running, intervals allows you to practice at a faster pace than you can currently sustain in small segments, so you can eventually sustain it. So no matter where you're at, you need to do your drills, you need to warm up properly, you need to have the coordination that you can get through those drills, you need to do your circuits. So we're kind of a one-stop shop on, I would call conditioning you so that you can run. And so right now we've got, elementary school kids, which is great because parents are just going nuts with their kids in front of a screen all day, and they want to have something either on a break or after school. So for the first time in my running career, we started Marathon Kids with Kay Morse in the school districts, 25 years ago now. And that was very much of teaching kids how to pace themselves in small segments in schools. Now Run is about teaching how to have a foundation to become a runner / athlete. And, not only are we doing it here for preschool and elementary school, but we're also in the Del Valley and the Manor ISDs in an after-school program that's powered by Bone Shaker Project, which is a nonprofit that brings Born to Run into the schools so that we can we teach the teachers at that school how to implement Born to Run. And then in the Born to Run program, it's very simple. We want you to be on a team with a coach with proper gear, training for a specific event. And so when we're in the schools, we coach the kids up, and last winter, they got to go out and do the Trail of Lights fun run. And it got on a bus, and they all have the same Born to Run Bone Shaker uniform on, and they get that athletic feel, but it's at a scaled down level. So we're really focused on building that foundation for kids in elementary school. And then in high school, it's really a performance-oriented program where kids that are really the top in the state of Texas are training together. They're from different high schools. They're getting together to train year-round, and then they go suit up in whatever high school they go to and race each other at the big races. So like the state meet's going to be you're going to see kids from Born to Run wearing all kinds of different uniforms like Lhasa and Anderson. And so it's super healthy for the kids because they learn how to compete day in and day out. They learn to love it. They get to know each other. They can key off each other, and it raises their performance. So I think one thing that we make kids, we train them consistently, safely, and we create a sort of a positive competitive environment to where you're not scared to compete, but you're looking forward to competing. And they have these great friendships that are, I think they're going to last a lifetime from what I can tell.
I think, full disclosure, what's that?
It evolves. adult spectrum, we have, really it's amazing to me because we coach adults that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we go through the same routine with them. And as sort of in the elementary school, you teach them the basic warm-up drills, circuits, and very light intervals, right? In the high school, and collegiate, they maximize the amount of training they can do. And then as they become adults, we keep the same patterns and we start taking away some of the repeats. So we don't, I say we repeat, we don't repeat. Like we'll do something, we just won't do it 10 times, and we still do it well. So, and I'm a big fan, I've always been a fan of running, and not really I'm not like a long distance. I can run long distance, but I'm more of a middle distance person where I love to run fast. And when I need to run far, I can, but I like to train fast. And I've shown that training people in that middle distance range is a very safe way to train. People shouldn't be afraid of speed work. Yes, we do get you running fast, but we don't start you running fast. And when you do run fast, you're ready for it. You're warmed up, your body's ready. And there's no better endorphin high than getting to run. One of the best things is I can still sprint and run full speed, not as far or as fast, still full speed at 58, and that sense of well-being you get from accomplishing that workout, you can't find it. I mean, I don't know where else to get it. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I've obviously run with you a ton over the years, and to me, one of the things that I've always thought was kind of your special sauce, and you're touching on it here, is the ability to bring people of all ranges and abilities together and feel comfortable. I mean, if you come out to one of your workouts, you'll see people in their 40s and 50s running alongside, high schoolers that are 15 or 16 years old. And then somehow it just forms this community. And even though people are at different spots, they all feel comfortable together. And you don't get that very many places. Yeah, when I look back into my entire running career, we had the same model going on literally in our high school and college programs. Like, I don't know how it happened. We've always had people, multi-generational people, and I'm very inclusive by nature, so it feels right to me and it's so hard to find people that want to stick with this, because it is easier to go for a long run, right? And if you do these workouts, long runs get even easier. But I think that physiology right now, if you look at high intensity training and interval training and how much it doesn't have to be done through running, but high intensity interval training is really popular, and it has to do with getting your heart rate up. Like the secret, I think, to anti-aging in a sense of physical fitness is getting your heart rate up to maximum for 30 seconds, 10 times once a week, which is also known as high intensity training. So we just happen to do it through running. Other people can do it swimming or riding a bike or, whatever you're going to do that gets your heart rate up. You should find something you love to do. But what keeps bringing people back is the fact that they can, because we might work out for an hour and a half, but my mantra is to have 15 minutes of that hour and a half be where all the work's done. And it's in an interval, right? So you have this long, easy warm up, very relaxed, a lot of conversation. And then we get to the point for 10 or 15 minutes in the middle, and then you have a cool down and everyone kind of moves on. So many people are afraid of what they see us doing, but they don't see the whole process. And I'm just amazed at the people that are afraid to try it, the people that do try it and don't stick with it, because the biggest problem people have when they try one of our workouts is that they're too competitive. They don't understand that you just relax through these workouts. They actually hit it like it's a race, and then they get sore, and then they don't want to go through that again. So, right. And then there's people that you never think they're going to come back, and 5 years later, they're just part of the family now, part of the fabric. So, it's not made for everybody. Training program is, but if you like that, that type of training, I haven't got tired of doing it after I started doing this type of training when I was probably 17, and I'm 58. So literally I've had the same routine. The number of reps are reducing. It's very similar. I've seen a lot of world-class runners that I wished I had been when they were at their prime. And when I see them hobbling around now, because all they did was log and, hundreds of miles a week, and we kind of stuck to our 30 to 50 miles a week of high intensity training. And at almost 60, I can still run full speed. I'm pain free, and play basketball, do whatever I want. And so we maintain this athletic approach to running, which is a big part of what we do at Born to Run. And so instilling that in kids, and then I call it sort of reviving people that are in their 40s and 50s, and getting that back for them is something that we work on. And I can see when people are running what they are and aren't doing in their training. And I love watching people come in off of 10 or 20 years of high mileage and shuffling along, and then watch them turn back into efficient runners.
You talk about people not burning out, and it kind of makes me think a little bit of your own kids. For people that don't know, you've got 3 kids that are scholarship athletes, 2 in swimming and 1 in running. But I mean, to your point, I don't think that any of your kids really, built up massive mileage at young ages, or even like competed that much. I mean, talk about how that just kind of ties into your philosophy because so many people, I think, starting at such a young age, just want to push their kids, but
yeah,
you don't have to do it that way.
I mean, I got some basic principles that I think are pretty close to true. There's exceptions for everything. So you could probably come up with everything I'm about to say there's exceptions for, but I think you have about a 10-year span at a highly competitive, like you could be about 10 years, you can really be passionate and care about a sport. And so depending on the sport, you got to look at that 10-year window. So that's one rule. Rule 2 is the more talent you have, the more you should delay the pieces of athletics that burn you out. So we knew when we produced the Congress 70 mile when Creighton was 10 and he jumped in, we weren't trying to get him to run it. A friend talked him into it, and Creighton at 10 easily ran away with the Congress 70 mile in like 5:30. And we knew for sure he was going to be a great runner. So he swam, and he played water polo, and he would do drills on hills once or twice a week. They would only have fun if their friends were there. If it was just our family, forget about it. So we knew that in running, like 16 to 26 is sort of the sweet spot of running, and that's the 10-year span. Now, if you're doing it more for fitness and your kid isn't going to be super competitive in it, the opportunities to run competitively start younger and they end sooner. But you still don't, like, it needs to be a fun experience. So I'm a big fan of training being the new event. Like, I think it's really good for kids to get together on a regular basis and train and do the basics. They're going to apply to any sport. I think it's really important to seasonalize sports for the youth, expose them to football, expose them to basketball, expose them to, baseball, track, tennis, and just spend these years just like seeing, like give them a chance to experience stuff. Now, we're a highly organized sport community in the youth environment, which is fine. We took the approach that we want our kids to go play with their friends and self-organize and do stuff. And we might be there with tennis, you might hang out and get them started. But the idea is that kids don't necessarily have to join a league to try a sport.
Sure.
So let's get kids playing together. What I think is going to happen because of COVID, I think there's going to be a lot more unorganized play dates. But, one thing we weren't going to do is like have our kids start playing tennis with a coach. Right? If they wanted to go play tennis and fell in love with them and they had some talent, then maybe we'd get them a coach.
Sure, but let them do it on their own first.
Yeah, so that's that. But I think exposure is good to multiple sports. It helps them when they become an adult. They might meet someone that they want to spend time with, and they're not a sport idiot where they can't hit a ball. So it's super important. And that's why, if I was in charge of old school PE, it would be 6 weeks of every sport with a baseline of conditioning throughout the year and exposure to every sport. If we were going to put that much energy, that's kind of moved to after school now. But I think it's really important not to be a monosport athlete before high school. And maybe not even until you're an upperclassman should you focus on one sport. And I can tell you, collegiate coaches would much rather recruit an athlete who's a multi-sport athlete and stood out in the sport they're recruiting you for than someone that's been doing this since they were 10 and they're risking burnout. Because sport is very high energy and there's a lot of magic that goes with it. And as soon as you start getting burned out and dreading it, you flip that energy off quick, and you might have got to college, but it doesn't mean you're going to perform at college.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. You mentioned the high school program. I mean, you are developing some really competitive, really successful runners. What's it like to kind of see that elite high school program grow? And like you said, you've got kids at all these different schools that are.
I love it because I love. I think I have an eye for talent, right? And I think I know what to do. I have a way. I don't have the way, but I have a methodology, and I'm always trying to improve it. So I'm always like looking for patterns and how do I improve my patterns and what outcome do I get from those patterns that lead into the races. But to see kids like coming in their, freshman, sophomore year, and then see them going to their junior, senior year and making the state meet in cross country and track and being on the podium, and just that progression from being sort of in obscurity with a dream and getting with the right kids. That, I have to admit that I think I'm doing the best job I can to giving them the workouts I think they should be doing on a regular basis. But the real credit goes with them running with each other all the time, because something weird about running is that you can go out and run hard by yourself. That doesn't mean you're running fast. Right? So when you run with someone, it actually is easier. You're going faster, and you have to learn how to relax. So competing at a high level, or any level, is when you line up against the best 100 kids in the state. Are you running against them or with them? Right? So if you're stressing out running against them physiologically, you get this stress shut, cortisol, and your vasoconstriction, and you tighten up, and you're like, what's wrong with him? He trains so well. What's happening with him in races? And so part of the magic of Born to Run is we have kids that they're going to end up competing against, that they train with every day, and they learn how to relax and run fast. And they don't panic when someone's like, if you panic when you pick up the pace and the person goes with you, and then like that's what's happening. And then the other thing too is kids learn, they've been learning how to run hard by themselves, and they've been chasing a time on a clock, and then they get to a race and there's no interval of rest, and all of a sudden everyone's running and people are moving away from them, and they can't respond, and they give up. They go out too fast, they give up, they see the finish line, they sprint in. So if you're like a parent watching your kid, he's got talent, he goes out fine, you don't know what's happening in the middle, but he's way behind you, but he's sprinting in, he's just not properly trained. So I don't feel like a coach as much as a trainer. And the body will adapt to whatever you need on a regular basis. So my strategy is sort of drip, kind of it's a high intensity program with low duration on a high frequency, so that the way the body works is when you stress the body, it has to recover first, and it has to adapt. And so if you're always stressing it too much, and it can only adapt so much, or it can only recover and then adapt, and you get burned out physically, your body breaks down because you're overtraining. So should you be doing slightly harder workouts every day, or should you be doing really hard workouts a couple times a week? I mean, both systems can work. In the developmental phase, I've found that that if we do a little less work on a more frequent basis, that we get better developmental results. Once they're mature, then I don't think it has this, I don't know that it has this great of benefit, but I know during development it's very helpful. And so we just try to keep it fun, consistent. The kids never know, or adults, what they're going to do before they show up. They have an idea. They're all on what it's going to be, but they don't know until and if I can see they think I know, I'll change it. Keep them on their toes. But
yeah,
I try to simulate racing. If it doesn't fit into helping your racing, we're not going to do it. I'm not a big believer in running, 10 miles at 7-minute pace if your race is 1 mile at 4:10 pace. Like, that doesn't mean there's no value to the long run at an easy pace. There is aerobic based value, but I think the real value in training is race specificity.
Well, the results speak for themselves for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got.
I was going to say, I think what's most interesting to me is, back when we founded the Congress 70 mile and then the marathon, right? In about the same year or so, every year, no matter what we did, about 400 people wanted to run down Congress Avenue as fast as they can. 15,000 people want to run 26 of them as slow as they can. I guess as fast as they can, but so it still blows me away that there's not 10,000 people in the mile and 200 people in the marathon. But people want to. It's easier to go run, and it's more enjoyable to go run farther. Now, when you train the way we train, you can run a marathon any day of the week. Like, we have people that run good marathons training for the mile because the translation to slower farther is there. It's just really hard to run slower farther and then try to speed up. Some people, and there's a hard mile is better fitness outcome than 3 easy. If you run 30 quality miles a week, it's like running 90 miles easy a week and fit benefit.
Interesting. Yeah. So many people are worried just about the mileage total, right? Like how far did you run today, or how many miles did you get in this week? And
yeah, I mean, it's one measurement. To me, how many miles you run a week is like asking how many calories they ate this week. It just tells you one thing. It doesn't tell you much.
Yeah, totally. You don't know what the miles were like.
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to find out more, Paul, to get signed up?
Born To Run ATX.com is a website. It's just a basic when we meet, different program levels we have. We're just kind of sticking to our game. It's like that Congress Avenue mile story. It's not what thousands of people want to do to train, but it's maybe it's like the Marines or the military. If you like high intensity training and you like hills and you like drills and you like the insanity of doing the same thing over and over, then it could be a program for you.
All right, Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Really good stuff.
People can
check out Born to Run if they want to learn more, and join us again next week for another edition of Austin Fit Talks.
I'll see you at workout.